I want to thank you for joining us back here at No Regret Vets. Thanks for tuning in and listening as always. Follow and subscribe, and let's kick things off. Hey guys, welcome back to No Regret Vets. It is me and Adam here today on this lovely Monday, and we're going to sit down and go over a little bit on gratitude and kind of explore that more than I think a lot of us do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, gratitude was not something I liked hearing in the beginning at all.
Yeah. No, I definitely had an attitude about gratitude.
No, my first 2 weeks into sobriety, I'm at a rehab center. I'm 35 years old, and I'm hearing the word gratitude. And I'm going, what do I have to be grateful for?
Right.
I couldn't think of a single thing. It's like at this point, I've had 5 seizures from coming off of alcohol.
Right.
I'm miserable, can't get my blood sugars under control, and I'm still wishing to die.
Yeah, I know. I was sitting in AA at the beginning. Is the same thing. It's like, what do I have to be grateful for? I've lost pretty much everything. I'm away from my family. I've done this and that. Like, what do I do? And I think that's where the change came. Every day being a little more and more away from alcohol and stuff. But learning that it's not just being grateful to be alive and I made it through all that, but even the small things, every morning, like you said earlier, like I'm just grateful to be alive today. I'm grateful to have food on the table. I'm grateful to have opportunities to move forward. Like everything I should be grateful for, and especially the small stuff.
And that's where I had to start with gratitude for sure. There was no, I'm making a gratitude list today, and here's the 5 things I'm grateful for. I was lucky if I could think of one thing. And it really did start out as, I'm grateful I just woke up today. Right. And I had to tell myself this. I didn't mean it, but I at least said it.
Right, yeah, and I think just getting in the practice of it, I think it's the same thing in spirituality with prayer. You get in the practice of it, you'll start feeling the changes. Then, that one time you make yourself do it, and you're like, oh, I'm changed. But I know with the gratitude thing, just like even being grateful for my trials and tribulations, my mistakes, like to have gotten me here to this side of sober, even though they still sting, obviously, and things that we've done, people we've hurt. But to be on this side of sobriety, to handle things and even go through rough patches of being like sick. Like I was sick last week, had whatever flu bug going around, and, we've both had things back home we're taking care of and stuff like that. And just to be grateful past the challenges of life, to be grateful for those challenges, because I could, still be using and no one even trusts me with those kind of emotions or things like that. And that stuff's starting to come back a little bit at a time. And then I still got to remind myself with that gratitude that I can't be a sober drunk. I can't act the same way I did while using. And I have to be grateful that I can see the difference in that moment to make the character change and to continue to do that with gratitude. I think it goes a long way.
Well, that's that. When I started thinking about gratitude and really started applying it in my life, it was similar to that. It was like, okay, what am I just for today?
Right.
Like you said, sometimes it was like, oh, wow, they made this for lunch today. And it was like, I haven't had this in a while. It sounds good. Or something new I tried. Going to the beach. Right. Just soaking in the sunlight. Little stuff like that went such a long way. And then it started transforming into, I'm grateful I get to go to the gym today, or I'm grateful that I'm sober today. I'm grateful that my kids have a sober dad.
Right.
All these things. Now I sit here daily and I got more than 5 things that I'm grateful for right now. I mean, I could rattle off probably 30, 40 things, starting with just like the air in my lungs.
Right.
That I get to breathe.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to, with that being grateful in the spiritual aspect where a lot of people suffer with, and not suffer, but struggle with it, is the faith thing. Like, how can you have faith in something you don't see and all this stuff? But with the gratitude of saying, I'm glad I woke up this morning, you didn't know if you were going to wake up, to be honest. You don't know if when you step off that bed, if your floor is going to cave in or not, but you have faith that it is. So be thankful enough to also open up your spiritual avenue with that thankfulness that, hey, well, if I can have faith in this unconsciously, then I can consciously start working on faith in my higher power and in my sobriety and have faith that if I stay with the gratitude aspect, even if it's forced in the beginning, and some days it'll eventually become a thing where it is earnest.
Oh, absolutely. And things I've started focusing on even more recently is the being grateful. Like I think you brought it up just a little bit ago. Even my trials and tribulations, but not even just the ones in sobriety, but like the ones prior to this.
Right.
I've always been proud that I served my country. Always been proud that I deployed. They say less than 1% stand up, raise that right hand, but then it's, half of that number is an actual combat veteran. Right. And so I've always been very proud of those things, but I was never grateful for it. Right. Never realized what I could bring to the table having those experiences. And in working with like my mentor and getting through, getting into sobriety, working my program and working with others, one of the things he has told me is that I have a gift. And I didn't think about it at the time. And I've recently started thinking about this more is throughout my sobriety, I have something to bring to somebody else who's not necessarily like a civilian. I can work with a civilian. That's great. And it's never been a veteran. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But in working with veterans specifically, what that gives me is when I hear the stuff that they've been through and the stuff that they've done, it's not just somebody else listening. Yeah. I have the gift of being able to say, hey, I understand, brother.
Right.
I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, just the mindset of day-to-day military life and how it was compared to civilian life. We can definitely put ourselves in those shoes and already... it's almost while they're telling the story, we can put ourselves in that same climate or aura of the story just by all living that lifestyle of military, no matter really what your MOS or job was.
Exactly. So something I had as a major resentment, like I said, proud that I did this, but resentment in what had happened to me, what I'd been through, what I'd seen, and I didn't know how to turn it into a positive. And now I'm grateful for what I'd been through.
Yeah, it took me, like you said, I was... proud. It was an honor to serve and do the things. But yeah, I didn't look at it from the aspect of, I didn't see it at the time, but the aspect of this is another tool in this journey of sobriety and reaching other people with mental health and addiction issues where we can relate. Like, not only do we have that tough battle of relation of the addiction itself, but now on a different scale, especially to a group of society that is taught to be tough, that is taught to handle your emotions differently. And that's really to be calm in the chaos of combat and things like that and to operate under pressure. But sometimes you got to take off that body armor and really dissect what's going on inside of you, especially after, post serving. And that's hard for a lot of guys. So to bring these stories or these feelings and emotions to the table with a newcomer or someone searching for, help in this, I think it does open up a bigger avenue. You're not just going to, and I hate to say it, a medical facility by the military, not to use names, and just getting a 10 questionnaire from a guy who doesn't know you that has a certificate on the wall. We are relatable. Yeah. We feel your pain when you talk about pain. Like, I think it adds to it for me. And it gives me back to hear their stories.
What you were saying,
excuse me.
When I was at Fort Bragg, I was in the hospital for a few days for mental health issues. Right. I'm not ashamed of it. I mean, some of the things I've seen and done, it was hard to process. And the doctor at the time, who they when they do your intake, it's like you're going to a board. Like you're in front of, the doctor, a couple nurses, a PA who's still in school, and they're battering you with these, random off the wall questions, and you're like, yeah, I'm sad, yeah, this. And I remember one of the things I said was, I'm having a hard time having like loving feelings towards my family.
Right.
And the doctor's response was, well, do you love them? Well, I do, but I don't know how to. I don't know why I feel shut off. And it was like, that's your response to this? Like, you're not gonna that. And at the time, I didn't realize it. It wasn't until later that it was like, that's a serious issue. I knew I loved my daughter. I knew I loved my ex-wife at the time. And
felt numb.
Right. That's what it was. I had this numbness and I didn't know why.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's one of those things where this is the place where we could talk about that and open it up instead of, they used to ask me all the time, do you feel like killing someone or yourself? And I always used to smart aleckly respond and be like, well, you trained me to do that. But then on serious notes, if you do say, yeah, I've had thoughts, fleeting thoughts about hurting myself or killing myself, like would the world be better if I was gone, stuff like that. Well, then you're locked up for 72 hours or more in this insane asylum, which puts you down even further. And I know that's a safety precaution, and then there's all kinds of issues that could have been avoided if that would happen. But in a lot of cases, you're just trying to explain your emotion and not be shut down in a room where no one's going to talk to you anyway. So a lot of these guys lie about that stuff, and to have an open table where we can discuss, even the rawest and stickiest emotions when it even comes down to suicide. Like this is, obviously if we think somebody's going to be in trouble or anything, we would definitely get them the appropriate help, or if they ask, of course. But to talk about it without being put in a straitjacket and able to express those feelings of self-deprecating emotion, or either not feeling the power to love other people that you love. Like this is why we're here, to uncover that. Like you're not alone in that thought process.
Exactly.
It's not abnormal. Now it's abnormal as far as being happy and things like that, but in these situations, this is how we address it to become happy. This is why we get it out, so we know, hey, you know what, there's other people that have these same fleeting or struggle thoughts, and it's okay. Let's dissect them. Let's think about them, and let's be grateful for what we do have, and be grateful that we are alive. And so maybe we could take the focus off. Well, maybe I'd be better off somewhere else. Well, maybe you're exactly where you're supposed to be. It's just not the most comfortable thing, and it's not the best optimum situation for what life could have been, but it is where you are just for today. And so be grateful that you have just today, and maybe this story that you have about just your today can change someone's tomorrow. And we build that way, and you build your day that way. And even if you can't focus on anybody else right now, you're fresh into this breaking addiction and mental health chain, and man, just be grateful for breath. I know it sounds cheesy, but the food, and you might feel bad the first few days when you're coming down and stuff like that, but be grateful that you're still feeling anything.
Right. That's, like I said, each and every day I'm finding more and more things to be grateful for. And those past experiences and those traumas and stuff I just never thought really could be something as a positive. It is such a positive. I think I used the story the last time we were in here is, you're out there paddling in the water and you're asking God to send you a boat, or asking, God to save you, and sends a boat. Hey, we can take you to shore. Now I got God. Well, I'm able to, the reason why I use that is because now I'm able to take what was such a negative in my life, turn it into a positive, and now I'm on that boat.
Right.
And I'm grabbing that struggling person in the water. I'm getting them on board. I'm like, okay, now we need to mop the deck. We need to, raise the sail. You need to do this. And then as they're doing the work, we're getting closer and closer to shore. And the goal is, once they get to shore, they can get on the dock, they can get on their own boat, and then go right back out into that storm. Yeah. And grab the next person that's out there struggling. Your higher power, God, whatever you want to call him, he does send the help. It's that work that's got to come with it. And that's where, again, going back to my gratitude, is I can now take all of that and use it to help somebody else get to their own boat, so they can go out and learn how to take their negatives and turn them into positives, and be grateful for the things they have in their life. Not just the small things anymore. Now you can be grateful for the bigger things. You can be grateful for your traumas.
Yeah.
And that, to me, has been very gratifying.
I think holding to be grateful for the small things also plays a different role in. So a lot of us come to this place and we've lost a lot, or as we've talked about, and I prefer to say now through that conversation, is we've given away a lot of stuff in our past. And a lot of times the assumption is I'll get sober and all this stuff will be right back. Like, boom, it's back. And that doesn't happen. That very seldom happens. And so, yeah, you might feel a little physically better, or, you're not using. So why is all these good things not happening to me? It's because you got to put in the work, and you got to do these things, and those doors will open, I assure you, in sobriety. But you got to be grateful for those small steps in order to get your stuff back in your life, spiritually and physically, to get your stuff back. If I promise you, it'll go faster and better and much more heartfelt and honest if you start being happy for the little things you're getting along the way to get back to a productive part of society and successful.
Yeah. for me, one of the things that I do, and I do it throughout the day, is it could be something small. I could be at Walmart. Somebody goes, oh, hey, you only got one thing. Why don't you go ahead and go in front of me? Or at the gas station, somebody holds the door open for me. I thank that person. But then I also, when you're talking about spirituality and gratitude, it doesn't have to be this grandiose prayer where you get down on your knees and you're thanking God for the... For me, sometimes I'm just in those moments and I realize that something good happened to me or something nice from somebody else, and it's thank you, God. And that'll be my simple prayer.
Yeah. I feel like with my high power, you got to understand how I do it. I talk to him all day. Like, it's not just like I'll have my prayers that I actually say out, but I'll have, like you said, little conversations all day, like, oh, Lord, help me through this moment, or that was really nice of them, God, hopefully they're blessed in the future, stuff like that, little prayers all the way. But I don't think that without gratitude, even for ourselves and others being in this process, that you can really get the full vastness of how well things can be and how healthy you can be after addiction. Without gratitude, you can't. And I think without gratitude, it's a very quick way to relapse. Because I, at the beginning, was a pessimist with this stuff, and I would sit in these AA halls again, like, I don't have nothing, I've lost this, I got a record, no one's ever gonna trust me again, I've ruined everything I have. How is there a good outlook? Oh yes, I'll just be some sober, boring guy sitting around, nobody okay. Like, just instead of being grateful to even be sitting there.
Yeah, and I had a lot of those very similar feelings when I got sober. 35 and I'm getting sober, and I'm like, wow, like my partying days are over, and this, that. I had all these negative thoughts, like trying to talk myself out of getting sober.
Right. No,
very much knew I had a problem. And I've had an immense amount of fun being sober. No, I'm not going to the bars. I'm not doing all the stuff I used to do. I have found other ways to channel my energy to have fun.
Right.
It's just simply doing this right here, sitting here with you, and this is fun.
Yeah.
8 months ago, 9 months ago, I wouldn't have done this.
Right. It would have just, for me, it would have just been bad stories. But now those bad stories, in the reflection of that, are now still bad. It still sucks, a lot of the stuff that happened, but now I can talk about these and hopefully prevent or pull someone out of the same stories that I was in that they're in currently.
Right, and I think for a lot of veterans out there, a lot of people in general, I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily a veteran, is
right.
They focus so hard on their past and all those negative things, and it's there's nothing wrong with looking back on your past. You can always turn around and look at it. I mean, even in the big book, it does state, we wish not to close the door on our past, and
right.
So you can look back, but don't stare.
I think how we say a lot in here that you can future trip, right?
But you can get hung up on that. You can
definitely past trip too, and guilt and shame will lead you back to relapse just as quick as anything in my book.
Absolutely,
guilt and shame and I dealt with that for a long time. The guilt and the shame of what I had done, to my family, to myself, to relationships, to strangers, like. Man, and it still is. It's a heavy load to bear, but to be grateful to feel again without using drugs and alcohol to incorrectly feel, and to be grateful to share the story and also have the opportunity to make amends, to move forward and start building these things back. And not everything's going to be perfect, and I also have to be grateful for that. Like, I have to be grateful for things that don't go my way, because that means there's something else in store. It's just not that. And so the gratefulness has to be fully embodied with the recovery. I truly think, for it to be a solid outcome.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that haven't went my way during sobriety. There's a lot of things that haven't went my way my entire life. But in sobriety, there's been a few things, and I get frustrated in that moment. I allow for that moment to feel like, okay, I'm mad right now.
Right.
But I don't let it ruin my entire day, or I don't let it ruin my entire night. Do I adhere to that perfectly? Absolutely not. There are still days where I'll fixate on one thing and I'll be able to move on for it, but then all of a sudden it'll come back and it'll be a thing all day long. But I really try to not let it rule my day anymore. So if it's something, aggravates me or pisses me off, it's okay. I give it its moment. I move on. If it, comes flooding back into my head, as emotions do, I'll give it that moment again, because it's like, okay, obviously I'm not processing this.
Yeah, and we talk about our program and how happy we've been and things like that. But, like you said, we're still human. We're still, sinners, depending on your religious belief, and I found myself where even recently with someone I care a lot about, like snapping and becoming very angry and behavior I don't want in my life, but beforehand it would have been just uncontrollable. No, stop to think this is horrible, whatever. And it even went too far in this past conversation. And then I have to stop and be grateful for the fact that I do now have that emotional part of me that has changed, and I am working on the character flaws, and to stop and say, whoa, this is not how you want to behave. This is not how I want to act or project onto someone else. And so I am grateful that I have the tools of the book and my higher power stuff to say, hey man, this is not how we act sober. This is not how you need to do things. Let's reapproach this situation. Let's not handle it like not blow it out of proportions like I did. And so, yeah, nobody's perfect. You're going to stumble in this, but the great part is that you can identify, and by being grateful for the chances to start over and do these things, it helps you with your character along the way to start identifying, like, hey, I don't want to be a sober drunk. I don't want to have same behaviors that I did when I was using, because then there's no excuse. It's just you acting that way, without the substance. So, yeah, being grateful that I noticed those things now and that I noticed that behavior, there's just so much to be grateful for, honestly. So I don't this could go on all day, really, about being grateful, and I think it should. I know privately with everybody and openly, just look in the mirror today and just be grateful you're alive, and be grateful for your struggles, because then you can be even more grateful for the good things that come.
You hit on something I really like, is being grateful for your emotions. That is a big reason why it's a reason why we tell ourselves we drank, is because, we're trying to cover up this emotion, or we're trying not to feel this. We just want to be numb. And though alcohol, drugs will do that for you all day, every day, you don't get the chance to process the emotion. You don't get the chance to process the trauma. Right. And so that, you're going to have bad days. Nobody says, hey, when you get sober, everything's just right. Rainbows.
Right.
It'd be great if that were true. But what I will say is, even on my bad days sober, I know that I can't drink. Right. And it's not because I can't. I mean, if I want to, I'm a grown man. I can go to the gas station. I can buy a 6-pack. Well, let's be honest here. I'd buy a 12-pack and probably some shooters. But it's not going to make my situation better. I'm not going to process what I'm feeling at that moment. So that is one thing that, like you said, being grateful for those emotions. I'm now able to start, and I'm, again, not perfect at it at any means, but I can start the process now. I can at least feel that emotion.
Yeah.
And not let it be something, okay, I have a reason to drink now because I'm sad today, or...
Well, I'm glad you said that too, because, but to interject real quick, like when I first started getting sober, like really doing this and knowing I don't want to go back and all this, like that first month even, I was way more emotional about things like, watching a movie where there's a kid involved and I think about my daughter, all of a sudden I'm emotional, or a relationship broken apart or something, I'm emotional. Like the emotions, they flood back, I think, too, when we first start getting sober. And it's odd because we've tried to suppress these for so long, then they're flooding back because you have a lot of things changing in your body physically, but also mentally, and those emotions can be overwhelming. And it's a good place to reach out and talk to somebody, too, who understands the process of getting sober and addressing that, because the emotions, you're still going to have emotional moments in life and emotional floods, right? But it's how to handle them. It's how to direct the current of that, tidal wave of emotion. And I just know, especially in the beginning, like it's not unusual. It's perfectly normal for you to have way more emotion than usual.
Oh yeah, I felt the exact same way. I was one of those, and I still have those moments where I'm a man's man. I grew up in a family where... Well, I grew up in one of those families where, men didn't cry. Right. Men suppressed their feelings. You had two emotions, happy or drunk, or drunk or mad.
Right.
And when you were drunk, you were happy until you got mad because you were drunk.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, when all those emotions started flooding back, I mean, the first 2 or 3 weeks of sobriety, I was crying almost every day, like a little kid.
No, yeah, sometimes I didn't even know why. I'm just like, especially if it came up to my daughter or relationships back home and stuff like that. It was just like, whoa, how did you get here? But I'm grateful for that.
And very much me too, because the kid that I was actually as a kid suppressed everything. And now as an adult, I can express it. In healthier ways.
Yeah.
I don't have to just get angry and run out of the room or blow up on somebody to make myself feel better. Everybody's having a bad day, and I have to be open to that too. So if somebody cuts me off in traffic, yeah, it aggravates me, but it's like, okay, maybe they're in a hurry to get to see their mom in the hospital, or I'm at Walmart and there's 3 kids running around in the aisle and the mom's sitting there trying to load up her grocery cart. Yeah, in my head I'm like, get your kids under control, but I don't know her story.
Right. Doing this all day long by herself or something.
Right. When's the last time she slept?
Right.
So I've had to start being more open to those kinds of things and not let those kind of emotions take me over.
Yeah.
And again, this, like I said, this topic of gratitude, I hated it in the beginning, and now I love it. It's one of my favorite ones when I walk into AA rooms, and it's a topic.
Speaking of emotions, when I would hear that in the room, like, you should be grateful today, I would just, it would get under my skin. I'd be like, who are you talking to right now about being grateful? What are you talking about? And then I'm like, looking from it now and actually putting it, practicing what they preach and I preach about this. It's such a game changer, and you can't do it without gratitude. I don't.
No, you can't, because you hit on it earlier, is, you can get sucked back into your past and instantly go right back down that rabbit hole. But if you just look at even if you have to start small, like I said, just, hey, I woke up today, or, oh, hey, I got a shower today. Yeah. I mean, these little things, you start putting them into practice, they lead to the bigger ones, and then they lead to, you can't stop thinking about what you're grateful for that day. And that for me has been one of the biggest blessings of sobriety, is that instead of going to bed at night wanting to die and not wake up, and then being mad because I woke up, I'm grateful when I go to bed that I have a nice bed to sleep in, pillows, a TV to fall asleep to. Yeah, I'm one of those people that fall asleep with TV on.
Man, I don't. Too much silence is loud.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm grateful for all those just little stuff. My blanket is nice and soft, and I absolutely love that.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Just that little stuff.
It's the little things. Yeah. Even when we make a good dinner, or just being able to have a 5-minute conversation with my daughter back home about what's going on with school and sports, or that person back home that you haven't talked to, or when you did used to talk to, they probably didn't really want to talk to you because you were messed up.
Right.
So all these things have definitely changed with gratitude, and I think gratitude is, I think it's number one. I think it's key with your spiritual awakening and relationship with your higher power. Admitting that you are an alcoholic and actually accepting that, and then being grateful for all of the things that you have been through, even if they stink. Yeah,
because had somebody tell me one time, the greater your mess, the greater your message. Right. And so to anybody out there that, thinks that, like, oh, my life is just horrible, I did all this horrible stuff. Guess what? First of all, you're not the first one to do it. You're not going to be the last.
And you're not alone in it. That's for sure.
There's nothing that you're going to tell somebody in any of those rooms, or a mentor, or something that they haven't already heard or probably done themselves.
Yeah, most of the time.
So be grateful, because your message, as bad as it could be, or as bad as your past could be, your mess, all this stuff that you did, you can turn that into a message of hope for somebody else.
Right.
Who is sitting there thinking the exact same way that you're thinking right now, or the way that I have thought, or the way that you have thought.
Right.
Is, I can't get out of this. I don't know how to get. Everything's gone. I gave it all away. Well, at the time you're saying I lost it all.
Yeah.
You start changing those perceptions and you start moving forward, and you can be grateful for your mess, because it turns into a message of hope for somebody else. I'm not saying you're going to help everybody, but let's say you help 10 people. Yeah. And out of those 10 people, 3 stay sober. Great. Right. That is 3 people whose lives you changed and you saved because you had. Yeah,
it's like what we talk about with this. If we reach one person, we've done what we came to do. Obviously, we want it to be more and keep this going, and that's just fine in my book. But yeah, gratefulness is key, and we want everybody to be grateful out there today, and be grateful for yourself, and be grateful for others. Be grateful for your trials and tribulations. And if you know anybody suffering, we work with Palm Beach Gardens Recovery here in West Palm Beach, Florida. And you could call them at 561-716-9150, or reach out to us and we can get you connected with them if you have anyone or yourself that's looking for treatment or anything like that. We always like to put options out there, and we have other options. Hit a meeting with AA if you can, find a NA meeting, or just reach out to us or a good friend, and be grateful that you have the opportunity to talk about what you have going on. Don't keep it in. And just be grateful this Monday as we get the week started. And thank you for joining us here on No Regret Vets.
Sappers lead the way.
Oh, God. Hey guys, I want to borrow a few seconds of your time to introduce Palm Beach Gardens Recovery. Located at 860 U.S. Highway 1 in North Palm Beach, Florida, Palm Beach Gardens Recovery provides clients with addiction and mental health treatment, equips them with the essential tools for success, and instills hope for them to become productive contributors to society through the development of crucial life skills. You can reach them at 561-823-6573 or email them at admissions@pbgardensrecovery.com. Again, that's admissions@pbgardensrecovery.com. If you have a coworker, family member, friend, anyone in need, please give them this information, and we will reach out to try to help them if they don't reach us first. Palm Beach Gardens Recovery doesn't just treat addiction. They transform lives. They dive into a personalized healing journey that restores well-being and renews hope and rebuilds families. So call again today at 561-823-6573. Palm Beach Gardens Recovery, the Center for Healing.